from Leningrad. The sisters' advice? Each day they should steal a piece from the production line, then eventually put all the pieces together and build a bed. She replies they have tried that many times, brought the parts home and assembled them, then discovered that, instead of having a bed, we have an automatic Kalashnikov. Always a grim smile from Yosef's friends. Yosef's job was to check the basic mechanism of the weapon, carry out the procedure for arming it, which was the equivalent of raising a round into the breech, then pulling the trigger. He had to activate the selection lever that dictated whether the weapon was on automatic or semi-automatic. Then it would move on down the line to the man who took it from the belt and dropped it carelessly into the crate. 40 for each crate. Yosef pushed the splinter into the cavity, forced it with his thumb, spat on it to make it stick. He did not think the repair would be seen. It would hold fast as it went with the others into the box for shipment. If it was spotted, the bastard at the end of the line would likely call the supervisor and take pleasure from the reprimand given to Yosef. The sergeant was still talking. He was visiting factory number 74 of the Izhevsk machine engineering plant, known to them all as Izhmash, secret, isolated, and marked on no maps, because he was credited with designing the rifle, and had been rewarded. Yosef and his wife lived humbly. No holidays, no luxuries, and a damp apartment, although it was only 4 years old. Mikhail Kalashnikov, or Misha, had been awarded 150,000 rubles 4 years before, which was precisely 13 years of salary for Yosef. Misha had been allowed to buy the first kitchen refrigerator to reach this outpost of manufacturing, and a vacuum cleaner, so that his wife did not have to risk dirtying her fur coat by sweeping floors. He would have driven to number 74 that evening in his Pobeda car that would have cost 16,000 rubles to any of the few able to get their name on the waiting list, and he was now a deputy in the Supreme Soviet. Yosef flushed with anger, and his heartbeat accelerated with jealousy. Another one arrived, armed, checked, trigger depressed. Then the selector moved down, then up, and passed on. And another. First it had been fewer than 100 a day, then it had been many hundreds. More clouds of choking smoke rose from the nearby chimneys. Now it was near to 1,000 for each of the shifts. Over the loudspeakers, Sergeant Mikhail Kalashnikov spoke of his determination to design a rifle that could better defend the motherland against the fascist aggressors to the west, and spoke of the privilege of being in a hall as large as the factory floor and seeing the inspirational figure of their leader, Joseph Stalin. Said that soon there would be more workshops, more lines, and more belts. Then quiet, and only the throb of the generators and the soft whine of lathes and files and grinders. They were all supposed to applaud when the sergeant graced them with a visit, but on that occasion it was desultory. Yosef could have shouted that it was said, at least was rumoured, that the design owed much to a considerable team of engineers, and in particular to the German prisoner from the war, Hugo Schmeisser. And another came. The martial music returned. Yosef had no car to take him home, no vacuum cleaner and no refrigerator, but his wife could always put butter and watery milk in a plastic box on the windowsill. And another rifle was placed in the crate, and the worker at the end of the line turned and shouted that it was now filled. The top was placed on it, and an empty crate replaced it, fourth filled that day from his line. The top was stamped 7.62 Avtomat Kalashnikova Obratstva 1947 Goda. Yosef worked on the belt that brought him the 7.62 automatic Kalashnikov model 1947, but had never handled one with an attached and filled magazine, had never armed one of them and raised it to his shoulder and peered down the length of the barrel with the range of it set at battle sight 0, had never pulled the trigger, and probably never would. The filled box was screwed down, fastened tight, levered onto a trolley and wheeled away. No ceremony, no trumpets, and no celebration yelled over the speakers. He assumed that the splinter of wood from the stock would now be wedged in place.